Hello there, everybody watching online, and welcome to Church on the Marsh online. My name is Josh, and I lead Church on the Marsh, and I'm joined by my beautiful and amazing wife, Claire. And also joining us tonight is Mick and Sally, who are part of the Church on the Marsh team. So, hey, Mick and Sally, hope you're doing all right.
Hello, yeah, we're fine. Just
really looking forward to this. Fantastic. Well, we're going to be getting to you guys in a second. Just for you that are watching, it'd be great if you could share this on your personal feeds, just to encourage people to watch along, that they might benefit as well from tonight's discussion, as we kind of be talking about and thinking about lessons from 50 years of marriage. Certainly, that wouldn't be us, young buds, but that is going to be Mick and Sally, and we're going to be gleaning some of their wisdom and experience. So please also comment along and ask questions. We are live, so if you've got comments or questions for Mick and Sally, as we kind of go through this interview, stick them in the comments, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, and we will do our best to pick those up. So let's get into it. So, and the reason why we're doing this as well is because Mick and Sally were part of our team, and just a couple of months ago, was it? You guys celebrated your 50th wedding anniversary.
January the 2nd.
Yes. February the 2nd, no, fantastic.
January the 2nd.
January the 2nd. Yeah, which is
I'll tell you later why we got married on such a
strange day.
It is an odd day, yeah. I guess
it's a great way to start the new year.
Possibly.
Yeah.
That's great. So why don't you first of all tell us a little bit about how you guys first met and when you got married?
Well, it's a long time ago. Actually, what happened, Josh and Claire, was that I was brought up in Sheffield and went to school, sixth form, things like that, and did extremely badly in my A-levels, partly because I spent too much time doing Christian things, to be honest. And so I couldn't get into the university I wanted to. And so Brunel in London would have me because I think they were desperate for students. So I trotted off down to Acton to Brunel, which was really only had about 1,500 students. And it was living near some Christians, it turned out, and I ended up in their Baptist church one Sunday, and I noticed this attractive woman, this attractive girl, sitting there. I didn't do anything, and then the following Sunday, I think I sat next to her. Is what happened, and then she invited me home for tea.
Yeah,
which I thought was incredible.
This one was Sally, by the way.
I should know somebody else, as you know. So she invited me home for tea. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So at this stage in life, I was in this second years of the sixth form at school, doing my A levels. I'd been a member of the church for quite a long time, and I thought, well, why not invite this guy back for tea? And he came back for tea at our family. And I remember my sister, who was 8 years younger than me, entertained him by playing. She just started to play the violin. Bar, bar, black sheep, bottom line. So that was his first introduction to. And there was no romantic intent in it, really.
Just shows what mistakes you can make. Actually, what we did, I'm not sure whether it was that time or the time after, we went to they were recording a show for BBC Two with some famous people in it. So I got some tickets and we went to that. The show was completely hopeless. It never actually was broadcast beyond the pilot episode. But that was the first time we touched hands as we walked along.
My goodness.
It was a very long time ago. I was 18.
I was
17
so it's a very long time ago. And then we sort of went out, as it were. Actually, we did fall apart. I was doing a sandwich degree. Josh would know what they are. So I was spending 6 months in industry from Easter. And before Easter came, we'd already fallen out, actually. So I just went back to Sheffield to do this engineering thing. And then sometime during the summer, somehow or other, some reason or other, Sally got in touch. I don't know why. But I think I was probably the first Christian you'd met almost. You were a similar age, wasn't
Yes. That's right. As somebody who's quite serious about their faith, and to be honest, I can't remember why I got back in touch. And that's
sent it to somebody else.
That's the good thing about 50 glorious years. You see, they can pass without you really remembering some of them. But at that time, I was after I'd finished my A levels, I was waiting to find out if I got into medical school. I was working in a children's guest house down in the south coast, and I took the bold step. Actually, this is the second time I've initiated the invitation of saying, why don't you come down and we can meet up?
So we did.
So we did.
And I lost my wallet during the weekend. It was all those kind of things. Really, it was an interesting time. And then we got back together again. And
then I went off to university in Birmingham.
That's right.
In fact, in London.
In fact, most of our pre-married life, we were living in different places. So you young people, you don't know what it's like without the internet. you don't really know what it's like without phones. So the hall of residence Sally was in, which had about 300 girls.
It had 200 girls and one phone.
One phone.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we wrote lots of letters.
And you were living obviously different.
I was in Uxbridge by then. Sally was in Birmingham, and we met some weekends basically. And then so we actually had a long distance relationship, which actually was in some ways a really good thing, because when you write letters, you tend to think about what you're writing. You know what I mean by that? So actually, once we decided we were going to get married, which didn't happen straight away, we started writing about what kind of a marriage we wanted. And I think Sally still kept some of these letters. Thankfully, she hasn't shown them to me, because I don't know what.
And I'm not going to read them.
Actually, we did sort of agree things we were going to do. So one of the things we were really very clear about was there were going to be 3 people in the marriage, which was the 2 of us and God. That was absolutely central as far as we were concerned. And also that for the 2 of us, it was going to be a partnership. It wasn't going to be a boss and an underling. We were going to do it together. And actually, I think we wrote quite a lot about that. And I think we were really serious about it. And so when the time came to get married, we did try and put that into practice. But do you want to add anything to that?
Yes.
Go on.
Get a word in edgeways.
Go on.
Yeah.
It's always like this.
I know. I think starting off a relationship, sort of long distance, and a time of transition for both of us, was that we actually did most of our growing up together. So it wasn't like we brought in a lot of baggage in whatever sort of way into the relationship, and we developed the same network of friends, and we developed similar interests. So I think there was something about a sort of slow burn, getting to know one another, that I think stood us in good stead. So by the time we actually got married, there wasn't much we didn't know about one another, but we also knew a lot about each other's friends and interests. And so there was lots of, even at that stage, because we'd been going out about 3.5 years, I think, when we got married, we had a lot of history then between us. And it meant that in a sense, I knew what I was getting.
Good, wasn't it? So when we got married, I was 22 and Sally was 21. And why did we get married 2nd of January? Well, having messed up my A levels, when I got to Brunel, I found something I was interested in, which actually wasn't engineering, it was something different, but I was able to do it. And so I then went off and did a master's degree at Birmingham. I went to Birmingham for 2 reasons. One was Sally was there, and the other was I could get a grant. Okay, so these are 2 good things. And we had a Christmas break, only of 10 days, and there was an exam on January the 4th. So we got married January the 2nd. I'm serious. And then in the evening after the reception, we got the train back to Birmingham to the flat we were renting. And then on the Sunday we went to church. And on the Monday I had an exam. I got 100%, by the way. So it's the only exam I've ever got 100%.
but going back to the you just interrupt us because we can rabbit on forever. But
no, that's okay. That's fine. Well, I'll just pause there and just a couple of comments. So thanks everyone for commenting in. Katie said, "I can't believe you're old enough to be married so long." Hi to everyone has been commenting. Jill, Brian, Chris, Matt, and Amy. Matt saying it shows the haircut, Josh. I shaved all my hair off last night. I'm wearing a cap just because I'm a little bit self-conscious.
I didn't do it just to add. He did it all by himself.
Yeah, it's good. But it's interesting to know that you got married. Yeah, so at 22 and were we 22 and 21 when we got married?
I was 21.
Yeah.
I must have been 22 as well. Yeah, so I didn't know.
That's right. Well, the other thing I was going to mention about the wedding was, I was in Birmingham. Mick was down in London. My mum planned the wedding.
I was in Birmingham by then.
Oh yes, you were in Birmingham by then. Mum planned all the wedding, and we just basically turned up.
Which we did.
And the day before the wedding, my mum said to me, "What have you got your going away outfit?" I said, "Mum, we're not going away anywhere. We're just getting on the train at Euston, and we're going back to Birmingham." And Mick's got in the car. She said, But you've got to have a going away outfit. I said, well, I haven't got any money. She said, Dad'll give you some. So he gave me some money, and I went up to Selfridges in London. Their sale was on. Bought a useless coat and hat, but
some boots.
Yeah, but I think when we've been discussing this, it occurred to us that actually the wedding wasn't the most important thing.
Yeah, it was the marriage.
It was the marriage
for us.
Which isn't a comment about anybody else's priorities, but for us, of necessity, we didn't organise the grand wedding, and we were pleased just to be married and then to start our married life together.
In fact, it wasn't that unusual to get married young. In my graduation group of about 20 students, I think there were over half that were either married or going to get married within 6 months. It was quite normal at the time. It's very different now, I think, very different. And one advantage of getting married young for us was that we had no money. We used to walk between bus stops to save money. We could only rent a flat because Sally's dad acted as a guarantor. Because I had a small grant, Sally had no grant. So we were living just on one small grant. And the good thing about that is we had to share everything. So there was no point having an argument about whether I'll put this much in, you put that much in. That's all we had. And I think that made it an awful lot easier for us. It really did.
Yeah.
So it's never been an issue. So, we just learned to do that.
Yes. I mean, just before we got married, I went to see the bank manager to ask if I could close my account because I was getting married and transfer the balance into our new account. And he said, well, you could do that, except you owe us a little bit of money. So
So who's banking with who, basically?
I don't know. So I certainly didn't contribute much financially to things.
So actually, it has made things a lot easier for us. And we were, from the word go, determined to be involved with a local church. So we got involved with a tin hut church. I mean, a tin hut church. It really was a tin hut. And a tiny little place, and we made some really good friends there. And we've also been very fortunate, very blessed to, until we got old ourselves, had other couples we could look up to. We didn't always tell them this, and just watched how they behaved, how they treated their children, how they did different things. And for us, that we've later thanked some of those people that they didn't know at the time, but to be able to do that and to treat them as friends was really fantastic. So we slightly worry that people might think that about us, which I think is pretty anyway. Sorry, you were about to say something.
I was going to say Josh has probably got another question for us.
I've got a question.
If I could just wait. So Brian's also commented in. Now I think it's a really good question from Brian. I was 19 the first time. Got married, I think. I'm now 46 in the middle of my second divorce. What advice can you give me to prevent taking all my baggage into my new relationship? Which is a great question and really honest of you. And I'm thinking maybe some of that might come up during the discussion later on, unless you've got anything to add straight away there, you guys.
I don't think we're in a position to give advice to people. We're very happy to share our story. And to recognise that in some ways I think we've had quite an easy life.
We have,
and you know, for other people, that's different. They have different challenges, and I certainly wouldn't want to rush in and say, well,
this is what you do.
This is what you do, and this is what you don't do. I think we've learned as we've gone along, but the point about getting support from other people and
really important
has been really important to us. And I can remember one particular couple. We'd been married about 3 or 4 years at that stage. We were running a youth group very badly with their son, and they opened up their home to us all the time. And when we went round, Ruth never stopped doing the ironing. She didn't. You weren't treated specially, but you were always welcome. You never felt that she was too busy, and I think that showed us something about the need to, if you're fortunate enough to have a home, then to try and share it with other people.
I don't think we're anything like as good.
No, we're nothing like as good as they were, but we're very
and we've benefited from other couples as well, just watching them, and also friends. You know, the friends are so important, I think, and I think for most of us during this COVID period, one of the things we've missed most is contact with our friends, isn't it? Really, because the screen is just not the same. It's better than nothing, but I do think that's so important, really. Sometimes doing nothing with friends. If you're on a screen, you feel you have to talk, don't you?
That's right. Yeah. You have the awkward silence, you know, and you have to.
That's right. Whereas the silences are fine if you're with somebody. It's just not the same at all. Usually fine anyway.
But obviously, you know, the life moved on, and other challenges sort of presented themselves to us. As Mick said, you know, we got married when we were both students, but then we spent the next few years just juggling careers between us, and juggling where we were going to live and where we were going to work, and that always raised the issue of how do you make decisions, how do you work out what's right, and whose voice has, you know, carries the most weight. And I think it's true to say that we've always tried to consider each other's point of view.
We have. I mean, some of the decisions have been quite easy. So, for example, we lived in rented flats for about 2-3 years, and then we bought a tiny, very tiny house in Bourneville, because I was working for Cadbury Schweppes at the time. So we had this lovely smell of chocolate coming through the window in the morning. It was fantastic. But we didn't kind of have any dispute about that. We thought it would be a great place to live, and it was about 20 minutes walk, half an hour's walk from the church. So it was absolutely fine for us. So that kind of decision was easy. The more difficult decisions come when you may have to move. So we had our first child, Karen, and she was about under a year at the time, and I had left Cadbury Schweppes and was working for Aston University as a lecturer there, and felt I should apply for a job at Lancaster, which had the Lancaster department was probably the best in Europe, so it was a good place to go. And so Sally was then working very part-time in the University of Birmingham in the academic psychiatry unit, and we both felt it was right to move. Difficult decision, but it wasn't me putting my foot down saying I'm the head of this household, we're going to do it. It was let's talk it through, let's pray it through. In fact, slightly worrying, some good Christian friends came up to us and said, we've had a word from God about this, you've got to go.
That's never easy when that happens, to make a decision.
No, it's not. It's not. It was a few years, I mean, probably about, where are we now? About 20 years ago, when I was a lecturer, more than about 25, 26, 27 years ago, I was a lecturer at the university, and I suddenly started getting invitations to apply to become professors elsewhere. So this sounds a bit highfalutin. And eventually I gave in and applied for one at Southampton. Sally didn't want me to, but I did. Okay. I went for an interview, and at the end of it, I thought, actually, if I'd tried, I could have got that job. And then the following day, the Vice Chancellor from there rang me up and said, we want to offer you the job. Oh, What are we going to do?
And it wasn't just me. The girls didn't want to go either.
So I was the only one who wanted to go. So in the end, I thought, well, okay, I don't think God's in this. This is a mistake. So I pulled out, which I think was the most difficult career decision I've ever had to make. But actually, it turned out fantastically. First of all, Lancaster treated me incredibly well, and we got to keep our friends. It was great. So it was the right tough decision. But again, neither of them were sort of bang the table. You must do as you're told, really. Yeah. But that's because I have a very compliant wife in your dreams, and we'd agreed a partnership.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So a couple of questions, and then maybe Claire, I think you've got a question to ask. So first of all, Amy asks, when you worked at Cadbury's, did you get free chocolate?
Yeah, Fridays.
Well,
it wasn't free.
First of all, there's something called the chocolate shop. And my first wage packet, I went to the chocolate shop and bought a bag of chocolate misshapes and took them home to Sally, and it was just heaven. Okay,
broken chocolate fingers. Because I don't want to make it sound as if we were, on our beam's end, but we certainly haven't got much money.
No, that's right.
And just the notion of having chocolate biscuits was so exciting.
But actually, though I worked for Cadbury Schweppes, most of the chocolate I ate was by Mars or Roundtree, because people in the department I worked did quality checks on other people's products. So they used to go out and buy them. Then we had a cupboard, a big filing cabinet cupboard full of chocolate. So if you were hungry, you just wandered around and got some chocolate. As a consequence, the factory had its own dentist. And it was one of the experimental sites for fluoridization of drinking water because of this. So yes, Amy, yes, lots of chocolate.
Yeah, so there's always pros and cons to working for a place like that. Matt also asks, which just kind of ties in with your comment just there, was it difficult having a tight amount of money between you and your early life? Have you always been on the same page with regards to spending and finance?
Right. Shall I answer that?
Yeah, you answer.
Yeah. I think it's good to have to start off with not very much, because I think you appreciate gradually the things that you are able to buy and spend money on. Yeah, I think we've always, I know not everybody does this, but we've always had a joint account, and we don't check up on what each other puts in and takes out. In a way, in a sort of comparative term, I've put more in than you've put in. We don't do it. We've never done it like that. And there are different periods in our lives when one of us has earned more than the other one has. It's all joint. And actually, because we're Christians, we don't believe any of it's really ours. It's just given to us by the grace of God. But I think we've always had the view that we wouldn't go and spend money anything significant without discussing it.
No, we don't.
And we don't have a sort of, this is your money and this is my money,
But that works for us. It might not work for other people. No. I wouldn't like to pontificate too much.
And that's why actually starting off with very little actually helps, because it's much easier to share when you haven't got much.
It's nothing to guard, basically.
Yeah. It's not just a choice of what you can do.
We can't. We are not short of money now. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? And so for us, life is in one sense very easy. And I do think Sally mentioned it earlier that as far as our married life goes, not thanks to us, but actually we have had a very easy life. And it's not true of everybody in our families, but we have. And I do think that it can make you flabby, actually. If you know what I mean. It's like exercise makes you fitter. And sometimes I think going through hard times may possibly make you better. But we haven't really experienced that, other than a couple of years when we were students, which is a long time ago.
Byron also asks a question. We've had many issues, but what we have learned is to rely on each other most as well as Christ. And what I would ask is whether you agree to keep things between us. And also asks, like the idea that too many opinions can spoil the broth. I think what he's getting at is, when you've had maybe disagreements or conflicts, how much do you would you have shared with family or friends, or just trying to kind of work it out together and in your own relationship with God?
Yeah, we'd work it out together.
We'd work it out together.
Never talk to other people about it.
And I think there are a couple of things that have always been key. We are quite argumentative, and we
as Josh has probably discovered.
That's right, and we have robust disagreements about all sorts of things. Usually not things that really matter. But one of the things that we picked up from the Bible was a verse which talks about, "Do not let the sun go down on your anger," and trying to put things right before we retire for the night, and not to hold on to grudges and hold them against one another.
We haven't been perfect.
We haven't been perfect, and there have been times when we haven't done that. But I think the idea of at the end of the day, you know, feeling that you've either said sorry or you've agreed to disagree about something.
When we'd been married a couple of years, we were recruited onto this new course developed by the Navigators, if you've heard of the Navigators, for new Christian couples. So we went on this course, and we make fun of it. It was a bit naff, really.
It's called Two Become One.
It was a bit naff, but you had these books to fill in where it was obvious what the answers were supposed to be. Okay, but I learned a couple of things from it that were quite important. One was that the couple who were running this course, who were probably as old as 40, okay, were that they suggested that as a couple, not just us but the others, we should make a practice of every night praying together. And so it's been our practice since then in bed. We take it in turns. One prays one night, one the next. And believe me, for 90% of the time, these are so mundane prayers, okay? But it creates that space, that possibility, if there's a dispute, for reconciliation, actually. You know, it's quite hard to pray with somebody if you've had a row, actually. So you know, I wouldn't make many recommendations to other married couples, but one would be give it a try. Give it a try.
It doesn't really matter if you fall asleep, you know,
especially when you're praying, which has happened in Sally's
before you finish.
Hey, at least someone else is listening, you know, even if one of you is.
When one of us is praying and we're the one who falls asleep is the problem. But but no, I think it's been great.
Yeah. And obviously, sorry, how are you doing with your questions, Josh?
Well, we're not very far through them, but that's okay. You know,
we thought you wouldn't win. Excuse me having a little drink, would you?
No, that's okay. Well,
I guess, one of the questions we did have was, you've kind of probably touched on some of the things, but you might have something else you could share, which is, was there anything about marriage that you didn't quite expect or took you by surprise once you got married?
No.
You knew quite well, didn't you, already?
No, I think that was part of the sort of
the fact that we had a long time to develop the relationship. I think I can honestly say it's been better than I expected. Okay, it doesn't mean there haven't been a few bits of rock on the way, but they haven't really been significant, I don't think. And you know, once you have children in the marriage, it changes the nature of the. Actually, the other thing we got from this marriage course, which I've held on to, that it doesn't matter anymore, was a strong view that was taken, which was that your children are important, but your marriage is more important because you'll be married longer than you have children with you. And I feel like I mentally wrote it down, and I still remember that, along with the advice to pray. Most of the rest of it, I can't remember any of it.
And undoubtedly, having children changes the dynamics of relationship, and you know, I mean, undoubtedly presented us with huge joys, but actually
the odd trial,
more than the odd trial. And that's the point where you well, for us it was like pursuing careers, sorting out children, giving the best attention you could to children. We've always been very heavily involved in church life, and just getting that balance right actually is important. I can remember one of our daughters on a Saturday night when I was cutting up things for Sunday school the following day, which I did every Saturday night. She said to me, Mum, I think you love your little ladybirds more than you love me. And I think,
Doing.
and although she didn't do it in a sort of angry way, but actually, I think there was probably something there that she had picked up, that I was giving attention to some other group, and actually she would have liked a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, being part of a church has been very important to us, and one of the reasons we had other couples we could look up to is that a healthy church is multi-generational. So you have relationships with people that are not your age, and that gives you the opportunity, I think, to learn in different ways. And but also you can draw on other people for help. And we had an awful lot of help from students when we had young children. I was working at the university, and we got to know quite a few students through the Christian Union and other things. And they used to come home and babysit for us, partly because they got a bath and they got fed, and they're like children.
They did have showers at the university, I have to say, but they didn't have a bath. So a bath was important.
They used to come home every week, and it was great because the kids got to mix with other people as well, to know new people. Also, again, this is through the university and through Sally's job as well. Lancaster has been, until about 20 years ago, quite a monoracial town, really. Still is to some extent. But actually, through the university and through Sally's work in the hospital, meeting people from other cultures all the time. And again, that's been highly significant for them, I think. And for us too, actually, because it's easy just to settle into your little kind of hole and stay there. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, and they were very helpful to us with childcare, you know, because they sort of filled in a gap in the middle of the day. One particular girl for a year really went and picked one of our daughters up from preschool at the university, took her to what Karen said was Jackie's house, which was her room. She thought this was a rather small little house, her room, going via somewhere like Greg's on the way and having a donut, and until Mick had finished whatever he was doing, and then could bring her home. So, you know, it was lovely to have all those connections with people who were became part of our extended family, really.
Yeah, it really kind of seems like being part of like a community and a family, you know,
it's really important.
It's a major part of having an enduring marriage and relationship and family life. And just going back to your comment, Mick, about, you know, your marriage being a priority even in the midst of children, you know, which can often seem a little bit, you know, because we value children so highly. But I can see what you're getting at, because, you know, if a marriage is suffering, it's hard to parent well, and it's hard to be patient and graceful to our children when there's conflict in the marriage. And so to make sure that the marriage is healthy first, and out of that, then you can then parent very well and extend patience and grace.
It is, and we, you know, I'm very conscious that I think younger married couples, well, most people are younger than us now, have a much tougher time than we did, in the sense that Sally was able to work part-time, so I had more time. I mean, part-time meant rather more than just half-time. And working at the university, I could work whatever hours I wanted, if you know what I mean by that. I mean, as long as I turned up for a class, nobody was going to say anything. As long as I turned in the research, that was okay. And so in that sense, we had much more flexibility than many couples do. And because we didn't have expensive tastes, you know, we could live without a problem. I mean, and really until the kids left home, we didn't really have much spare money, but that didn't matter. I mean, but for holidays, we just used to go camping. And in fact, I was saying to Sally the other night, I could just remember the first time we went for a holiday where we used savings, and that was to go to the Isle of Wight. Okay, the rest of the time we just packed the tent in the car and off we went. And sometimes the weather was awful, and sometimes it was great, but it was just normal, really. And I'm not saying we're paragons of virtue, because we're not, far from it.
I have to say that the whole idea of doing this interview filled me with slight dread, because lessons from 50 years of marriage. Well, I would hate to put us forward as being
we're not
people who've done it all right.
You have to ask our kids.
I think the answer is, well, certainly in terms of, if you're thinking of bringing up children, what I would say is we did it as well as we could.
Yeah.
You know, we obviously made mistakes, and there are things that we, in hindsight, we could have done better.
Oh, yeah.
But I think sometimes you just have to say, I did it as well as I could.
Mm.
And, you know.
And it's important, I think, for people to hear.
Yeah, I think that was really the whole idea why I wanted to do this, was because we just know that, like, relationships can be really difficult. You know, marriages can be really difficult. And especially even at this current time when there's added stress and added pressure in a very busy society, you know, with busy lives and with raising kids, you know, like it's really hard to maintain a healthy and a strong marriage, and it's even hard just to keep that going, you know, and a lot of relationships will like sadly do end. You know, there's lots of different reasons.
They do.
So even the fact that you've made it to 50 years, you know,
we haven't got the energy now to do anything else. It's pretty much true, actually. I mean, I suspect nobody gets married intending for it not to work. That's never people's intention. But sadly, for some people, it does go wrong. And I do think for churches, this is an important issue about how we support people whose relationships are breaking down. It's really tempting to shoot the wounded, I think, you know, they've failed, that's it. But I can't, that must never be our stance, I don't think. Our stance has to be to support people through whatever they're going. And that can be tricky, I think, when you've got a relationship breaking down and they're both in the church. Who are you going to support? Becomes an important pastoral question, which occasionally is, you know, we've got involved with too. But as I say, I think, you know, I don't want to put us up as paragons. I think we've had a very easy time. I really do. Yeah. And we've really been blessed. We have really been blessed. But I think.
Sorry, go on, Sally. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just telling you to shut up so that you could answer.
That's right. Well, a couple of comments here, and then I'm just conscious of time as well. Probably want to 5 or 10 minutes, and then we will ask a couple more final questions. So Amy said, going back to you guys praying, we try and pray every night, and most nights I would fall asleep whilst Matt was praying at different times of the
day. Yeah, fair enough.
So, I think people have to find your own rhythm of what works for you. Right. I don't think there's a recipe.
That's right. And also said, thank you for honesty. It's easy to feel pressure to try and be perfect in marriage and parenting, but you're right. We can't be perfect, but we can aim to be able to say we did our best. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I do think also if we look back and say that maybe we didn't do our best, there's no point twittering about it. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
I think a readiness to say I'm sorry is really important.
Are you saying I'm good at that?
It's not one of your strengths. Sorry, we missed. There was a comment that you just put up
that
there.
Was Amy again.
Yeah,
no, there was somebody else.
The one from Jim. Question. So I'm a new Christian. I've just got into a new relationship. What would your best motto or piece of advice? Over to you.
I think take care, probably. And if you have the luxury, which not everybody does, try and develop a relationship carefully and prayerfully. Now, by prayerfully, I don't mean that you have to be incredibly pious, or I don't mean that at all. And I don't mean that every time you meet, you have to pray. I don't mean that at all. But aware that we're people of God, and He wants the best for us and has ways for us to live, I think would be my suggestion. But again, I'm so conscious that, you know, here I'm 72, okay, not 27, 72, and I really have no idea of the pressures facing younger people starting relationships now. Well, I do have some ideas, but do you know what I mean? So I've never experienced those things.
I was just thinking of a verse in the Bible that talks about always sort of try and think of others as better than yourself. So actually start from that, and the interests of others, put them before your own interests. And that is a counsel of perfection. But if you start off from that stance that, the relationship's going to grow stronger if you put the needs of the other person first. And if you do that mutually, of course, you build a much stronger relationship together. So if it comes to like choices of, are we going to move? Are we not going to move? Should I take this job? Should I not? Should I take that job? Then actually considering the implications of that decision on either your partner or the children, the rest of the family. So it's not just what's best for you, but what's best for everybody. And you can't always do that. But I think that's better than being part of the me generation. I need to satisfy my needs. I think that's where often the Christian faith is a bit countercultural.
I think it is in some ways, yeah. So I'm not sure we're answering Jill's question.
Anyway, we got.
I think you said before, be careful, go slowly and honor others, and just
absolutely,
yeses.
Yeah.
So another question we have for you, which again you've kind of touched on already a bit, but maybe you could expand a little bit more, is what role has your faith played in your marriage? So yeah.
I think it's from this. I'll answer this from the start, because when I first met Mick in London, he was the most enthusiastic Christian I had ever met.
You may find this hard to believe, but God,
I had never met anybody who was so up for talking about his faith and sharing it with people, and that actually stirred me up in my faith. I'd become a Christian the year before. I'd gone to a Billy Graham crusade, the famous American evangelist, and I became a Christian as a result of thinking, he's talking about a God he knows. I want that sort of relationship too. So I think we both started, together to grow together, and trying to put God first in our lives. And I can't imagine what our lives would have been like without faith and being part of a fellowship that would support us, and that where we could be a support to other people. I think it's been absolutely crucial.
No, it has, and as I think I mentioned that in those numerous letters that went between London and Birmingham, once we were fairly clear we were going to marry, then we did write a lot about the part that faith was going to play in our marriage. Have we lived up to it sometimes? Probably not all the time. But again, I don't think there's any point looking back and saying, "Oh, we could have done that better," because we can't do anything about it. And it's by the grace of God, really. We don't deserve it.
And I think that we've tried to, in a sense, encourage one another in our faith. We supported each other in different ministries that we've been involved in, and we've tried as far as possible really to work together on things, especially once the children were grown up, because I think that's a way of cementing the bond between you. Otherwise, in your older age, I think you can drift a bit. So we have more time to do things like prayer and Bible study. We're not we're not paragons of virtue, but we encourage one another in that. You know,
Let me tell you what we've never been very good at, though. We've never been very good at doing Bible study together.
No,
we haven't. We've never been very good at that. So it's some couples, Christian couples, make a habit of doing daily study and prayer together. We've never really done that. We tend to do it separately, individually. And of course, one of the things about being retired is you're not living by the clock most days. So actually, you just have a bit more time. And if you know, and so which creates a very different atmosphere, I think, for me as an individual, where I'm not pressurized in that way. So faith has been pretty important. Have we always succeeded? I wish.
No, that's great. Yeah, it's been great to see how you've made that a real priority in your marriage. It's even really before. So a comment from Byron here, just kind of comments on that. So what I find remarkable is that you established a framework for your marriage before getting married. You know that they've been trying to do it.
Well, it's because we had the years apart to do it.
We didn't have children. We'd been married more than 6-7 years before we had children.
That's right. Yeah, so different. Really.
Jill had said, "Thank you so much, great advice," and he did answer my question for the question.
Thank you, Jill. I hope we.
Thank you, Jill.
Great. Well, that's great. Well, I'm conscious of time here, so for those watching, fire in your final kind of comments and questions. We're want to try and wrap it up in the next few minutes. And one final question for you guys then is that for anyone that might be watching who's currently struggling in their marriage, maybe on the brink of divorce, or maybe just COVID has just really kind of added the final straw, or has just made it very, very difficult. What would you say to couples right now who are just struggling a little bit? What would your best bit of advice or of hope or encouragement be?
I don't think we're very good marriage guiding counselors, really.
No. I think there's something that we sing sometimes called "Your grace is enough, more than I need," and I think for those people who have a faith, this is the time to draw on it. And you can be absolutely honest and open with God and say, you know, we're really on the brink, on the edge now. Yeah, you know, please come into this situation. So, and I think actually finding, if you can find somebody else with whom you can trust and share, and so that you're not going through it on its own, on your own, because lots of relationships, I think, can be rescued with love and patience and encouragement and nurture from other people, rather than giving up at the first hurdle. I'm not saying that people do that.
I don't think many people do that. No. I think it may also depend on whether there's somebody else involved. I was out working with a friend a few months ago, and we were talking about this and that, and he said to me, "Have you ever been tempted to have an affair?" So I said, "Yes, I have." And he said, "Well, why didn't you?" I said, "Well, actually, for several reasons. One is that I just didn't think it was worth the cost of destroying my marriage. Also, I'd promised to Sally and to God and to other people that we'd stay together. And so, therefore, tempting though it was, not a chance. And I do think that's important sometimes, to remind yourselves of those things. It's like sometimes in your Christian faith, there are times when all you can do is hang on, actually. But hanging on is really important. And so I wouldn't want to judge people whose relationship breaks down. I really wouldn't. But I'd urge them to try and make it work, as Sally said, to try and get some help. But I'm equally conscious that we have no expertise whatsoever in relationship counselling. Well, I don't anyway.
I have to say, I did used to do it when I worked.
Yeah, you did. It's true. You've been retired a long time now. Keep working our marriage. I think about this. Anyway.
That's right. Yes.
Well, thanks. Well, thanks for that answer, and hopefully that would be a real sense of encouragement. Especially to those who are struggling right now, because you know, I know of someone, and you know, it's like this time is quite hard for many.
It is. I think it's very hard.
It's made it harder. So I think we'll probably wrap it up there. So if anyone's got any final comments or questions, stick them in now, and we can see them. But guys, thank you so much for sharing some of your story and, you know, some of the lessons, some of the experience that you've learned over these years. And I should say, yeah, you don't say and feel like you've got it all right, but it's still an encouragement and an example to many, even to us.
We shall see. Okay.
Well, we don't usually do interviews with a glass of wine, but we thought, as it was Valentine's Day, we would say
Happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah.
We don't normally celebrate Valentine's Day.
And sorry that we took up your entire Valentine's evening as well.
That's all right. We don't do Valentine's Day.
We don't do Valentine's Day. It's like getting married on January the 2nd. You know, we never really remember or celebrate.
We don't have an anniversary because it's too near to Christmas and New Year. And
so actually, this year thanks to people like you, we have made much more of an effort for our 50th. So thank you.
But it's only a number.
It's only a number. It is only a number.
Yeah.
That's right. Great. Well, thanks again. Thanks everyone that's been watching and commenting in. Thanks for all your participation. We'll finish it here, and don't forget to check in on the Facebook page, website, and all that kind of stuff. Coming up, we'll probably be doing more interviews as time goes on. But thanks to everyone watching. Thanks to Mick and Sally, and we'll say goodbye, I guess.
Nice to see you both. Okay,
yes.
Bye now.
Bye then.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
That is all for now, guys. I just wanted to say thank you for watching and participating in the comments. Make sure to check out our Facebook page for all of the updates that are going on in the life of Church on the Marsh. And hey, why not also take a look at our website, churchonthemarsh.co.uk, where you can find a little bit more about us. Why not drop us a message too? We would love to connect with you and to find out more about you as well. So take care and God bless.